Welcome back to the Pitch of Discontent. I'm Owen.
And I am Paige.
And you are joining us for another weekly Roundup episode. Paige, I'm very excited.
Weekly Roundup.
Weekly Roundup.
Sounds like a wrestling match title.
It kind of does.
Ding!
It almost sounds like we're pitting ourselves against ourselves.
We're going to fight?
We're going to fight to the
Wrestle.
death. Wrestling.
Yes. I could do a pile drive. That's what it is. Dane taught me that.
Yeah.
Where they that's where they get them on their heads, right?
I believe
and then they
so.
go
It was a goddamn pile drive. But it killed.
Beautiful. Starting strong.
Starting very, very strong. Yes, if you're tuning into the show for the first time, this is the weekly roundup.
It is.
We're going to go through some alternative music that came out in the past week. Got some banger tracks for you. We've got a hell of a feature album to discuss at the end of the show.
We do.
Which I'm pretty excited about that.
Me too.
Before we get into the main part of the show, though, we've been on YouTube for a week.
One whole week.
It's
our 1 week anniversary.
1 week anniversary.
You didn't even buy me flowers.
Fuck.
You did buy me a bottle of wine.
I did.
Fuck flowers, honestly.
I believe it was the Snoop Dogg Cali Red. So.
Yeah, because we're poor right now, and it was on sale.
Look, Mr. Dog knows what's up honestly, when it comes to wine.
It's actually quite nice. Yeah.
How are you feeling about the show, the move to YouTube, the first week? How are you feeling?
I am stoked. I don't know about you. I think that people might look at our views and see that we're definitely small potatoes, but the relief I feel that more than 2 people have watched it and that hundreds of people have watched it is just kind of from here up is just sick to me.
Yeah, definitely.
If you and I were the only people that ever watched it, I probably would have been pretty depressed. Mm-hmm. But that everyone's really loved it from what I can tell. So that's sick.
I think we've only got positive feedback. I think our guest episode with Beck from Terminal Sleep came out great.
Yeah, she's an amazing guest.
Really, really good reaction to that one. And I think people like the format and they like how it looks. And I spend way too fucking long in the edit. So
you put your whole heart and soul into that. And it's a really good edit. You did a great job.
Thank you. Hopefully over time I'll make them a bit slicker and a bit more profesh. But
I think that there are very talented video editors out there that probably can see that we're a bit amateur hour, but I think for what we're doing, I feel like we have an audience that's so amazing and supportive and likes to help us grow.
Absolutely.
I've had friends help out with suggestions on the lighting and stuff because I've definitely been struggling with getting a good balance on that. We're still figuring things out, but we have such a great supportive community behind us that are they want to see us do this. So it's been really amazing and quite wholesome.
Yeah. If you're a returning watcher, listener to the show, drop us a comment. Tell us what you think of the show. You can leave comments on Spotify now. So if you're streaming the show and listening, drop us a comment.
We want to hear from our day ones because we would never leave you in the gutter.
No, never.
So actually.
The other thing I want to mention is the Patreon. So Patreon is now live. We have our first member. So shout out to Anna for signing up to the Patreon.
I love you. You're the best.
Yeah, if you want to support the show, you want to help us do what we do and make things better.
This is how we do
it. It is the perfect way to invest in the show. We definitely appreciate the support. I've got some good perks on there, some extra stuff that we'll be posting from the guest episodes.
Yeah, just bonus content.
Exclusive interviews that are too short to turn into a full guest episode, but I will kind of cut those up and just put them on the Patreon for people. So there should be cool stuff on there if you want to help support the show. The link is patreon.com/tpdpod. That link again, patreon.com/tpdpod.
And if you're too skint, that's chill too. Just chuck us a like.
Yeah.
or a share or a comment, whatever you can give. We are mere beggars.
Exactly. Okay, I have a couple of shout outs to mention at the top of the show. So the new record from Webbed Wing, Volume 3, dropped last week. Really good alt rock record, if you're into that. Fuzzed out riffs, catchy choruses. Give it a listen. It's dope.
The bangers.
Also had the new record from Aussie metalcore act In Heart's Wake. They dropped Incarnation, which is the like spiritual successor, evil twin to their first record, Divination, from 2011, I want to say. But yeah, really, really good record, and
those were the
might
days.
Be my favorite In Heart's Wake record.
Shit, really?
Yeah, definitely like the best collection of songs or strongest collection of songs I've heard from them, maybe ever. So,
how big of a wake does a heart make?
As big as you want it. Depends on you.
Yeah.
And the strength.
How big is your heart?
How deep is your love?
Oh, beautiful.
But yeah, if you want some Aussie metalcore action, go check that one out. Bunch of guest vocalists on that record. Winston from Parkway's on it.
That's sick.
A couple more that I can't think off the top of my head, but stacked full of guest vocalists.
We have such a good music community.
Totally.
It's so sick.
Yeah. And then I have a final shout out, another Aussie band, Wind Waker.
Yeah.
They released a record.
Great game, by the way.
They released a record called Hyperviolence. This one is really, really cool. It is like a hyper pop take on metalcore, which on paper, I would read that and be like,
I would read that and be like, sign me up.
Not sure how I feel about it, but listening to the record, it's actually kind of dope. And it kind of turned me around on the whole thing. They're currently in the States touring with Northlane, and the shows look insane. Looks like they're killing it. So stoked to see another Aussie band winning.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
W's in the chat.
If you're intrigued by that premise of hyperpop metalcore, check it out.
Yeah, that's sick. I will. Absolutely.
Should we get into the main show?
Yes, I believe we should.
Let's do it.
And scene.
Okay, so first up for this week, we have a new track from Washington, D.C. singer-songwriter Bartees Strange. Are you familiar with Mr. Strange?
I'm familiar with Bellatrix Lestrange, and I know
different Strange,
and
no
I know
relation.
Barty Crouch as well. But no, not familiar.
Okay. So he put out a record back in 2022 called Farm to Table. And I saw a lot of hype around that on music Twitter at the time before I got my account deleted for posting anti-capitalist guillotine memes. But that's the story for another time. So he was getting a lot of hype and people seem to really love that record. Been kind of keeping an eye on him since then to see if he's doing new stuff. And I feel like he's gearing up for another album cycle, but I don't have any more information on that. What we do have is a new single. It's called Lie 95, and it's a moody R&B rock cut with a kind of nostalgic 80s vibe to it. It's got like a glistening kind of texture to it, which is nice and pretty.
Shiny.
I have a quote from Strange talking about the theme of the track. He says, quote, "This song is about searching for love all across the Northeast Corridor, which is I-95.
That's a highway.
That is a highway.
I know things.
Correct, yes. He describes that corridor as my universe. I'm thinking of love in a broad way, partners, friends, and community. This one's for the highway and everything I meet through it."
Aww.
Yeah.
Kind of about like connectivity.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, like a road trip song.
Yeah.
And how like, you know when you...
A tour song.
Yeah, you know when you're driving alone...
I do.
And your mind wanders and you're thinking about stuff.
Oh, the intrusive thoughts.
Well, I believe that's what he's trying to channel on this one.
Right, probably less unhinged though.
I'd say so.
Right.
Let's jump into the track and have a listen. This is Bartees Strange, Lie 95.
Okay, let's do it.
For someone to love, down for me.
Hit me with your thoughts on that one.
I love it. I think it's really, it sounds a little bit melancholic.
It does, yeah.
It's not, when you describe it kind of like, I think the way he described it hit perfectly, but when you add in like it's a road trip song, it definitely is. I still agree, but I think for me it paints more of a picture of like this like upbeat fun going on a road trip, but it's actually more like contemplative and
because like he
melancholic.
was talking about it being about love and a more like generic kind of love, so like partners, friends, community, and I think that melancholic kind of color to it means that it's more of like a forlorn
it's
love.
homesick maybe.
So it's like kind of like
He's got the nostalgia.
yes.
He needs to be taken off the battlefield.
I don't know, I just love his voice. It's so soulful and
It's beautiful.
but I also love that it is like still very much like a rock track.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that driving kind of backbeat. It's got a really catchy hook. I was walking around the house a couple of days ago just like humming that chorus line.
You were, yeah.
And you were like, what the fuck are you singing?
Yeah, what lyric was it that you just kept singing?
I can't get enough.
And I thought you were singing Kiss. So I was like, can't get enough.
No.
Because in this household, if someone
Putting
sings,
a-
I sing too.
Yeah, putting a different register on it. But no, it's catchy.
It is really catchy.
And it's just got like that nice hypnotic kind of driving backbeat to it that really helps kind of keep that, I don't know, emotional anchor to like the melancholic vibe that he's bringing.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said before we hit play, I don't know if he's got a new album on the way, but I assume he does,
I sure
considering
hope
Farm to
so.
Table came out in 2022. But yeah, keen to hear more from Mr. Strange.
As am I.
Yes. Next up, I have Sydney hardcore crew Phantoms. They have announced a companion 7-inch EP to their previous release, which was the Hell is Empty EP, which came out in 2022. And the album artwork is kind of like two pieces of the same shot. So the previous EP and the new one fit together.
Oh,
and
cool.
it creates like one whole image.
Oh, kind of like that vinyl art set that we have for, God, what is it? And it's like all nude women and surrealist.
Oh, like the Baroness artwork?
Yes,
the John Dyer
Baroness.
Baisley stuff?
Yeah.
Kind of similar to that. So the artwork for this was done by Thomas Sweetman,
Cool.
who's a great Aussie artist who does lots of like hardcore flyers and logos and heaps of sick shit. So he was working on that one, and they put the whole team back together for the new EP, and it was recorded, mixed, and mastered by Elliot Gallart at Chameleon
Oh,
Studios.
sick.
So the new EP is called "And the Devils Are Here" EP, which I believe is a Shakespeare quote, like "Hell is empty and all the devils are here."
Right.
My literature degree is failing me right now. I can't remember exactly what
My
that's
English
from.
high school education. I
Some kind of Shakespeare.
can tell you a number of fucking Romeo and Juliet quotes, but who can't?
Yeah.
Anyone
Anyway,
who's listened to a Halsey album can.
future Owen will fact check this and edit it, and I'll put something up on the screen.
And make us sound smart.
Yeah, cool. So the EP is coming out on July 26th through Last Ride Records, and it's
Great.
billed as the finishing piece of the Phantoms puzzle. So kind of the companion
A
finishing
little bit of an
piece.
overarching concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
That's sick.
The band also recently played Cold Day in Brisbane Festival, which happened.
But how cold
yesterday.
could it really be?
How cold is
How
the day?
cold was the day, guys?
Yeah. I've been watching all the footage from the bands and people at the fest. It looked very dope. And I'm kind of bummed that we got to, or that we had
Like
to
one of
miss
my
it.
favorites every year.
Yeah, it was a sick fest.
Miss you guys.
I know we shouted it out on a previous episode, but if you want to listen to Adam and Pip, who put on the festival, chat about it, we had them on the show for a guest episode, so you can go listen to that.
True legend.
Let's have a listen to the new single from Phantoms for the new EP. This one is called The Big Adios.
Nice. Okay, let's do it.
Let's go.
I feel nothing at all. Nothing but the sum of my fear. I feel nothing at all. Nothing but the sum of my fear.
I feel nothing at all, nothing but the like. What does he
I
think?
feel nothing at all, just the sum of my fear.
That's so fucking hard.
Yeah. Also that bit where it's like, the world is at war. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun.
that immediately was just like, yeah.
Lots
Nice.
of
So like equals some brackets fear, like a little Excel humor, Microsoft Excel humor
cool.
for you.
Spreadsheets.
You're
Fun.
welcome.
No, I love the track. It's got plenty of hard moments, which is what you would expect from Phantoms.
Definitely got punchy shit.
Yeah, they're a hardcore crew that's been around for like 15 years at this point.
Yeah, they definitely are like masters of this craft.
Yes.
Like it's what you like kind of come to love about.
Yeah.
I feel like they've really like they're such an integral part of like that Sydney sound specifically, but I couldn't tell you what sets that sound apart from other alternative scenes in this genre, but they just do. They have like a really cool, unique way of doing this particular type of music.
Yeah.
And now for me, it's very much like that's the Sydney sound.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, I get it. The Sydney hardcore sound to me really kind of leans on, at least like in terms of influences and inspiration, a lot of like late 80s and early 90s New York hardcore stuff.
Like Long Island. That's not the accent at all.
It was a terrible
It's
accent.
bad.
No, I'm thinking more of bands like Leeway.
Yeah, right.
Thinking of like Madball, that sort of sound. And I think in particular, like Phantoms as like a representative for the Sydney sound definitely skew more towards that crossover style of hardcore where the thrash influence is like very prominent. So like in the lead guitar, like you've got a very thrashy lead. That little clean vocal refrain of like, I feel nothing.
Yeah, for sure.
Nothing at all.
It's like a chant like fill.
Yeah,
and
that's a very like thrash kind of oriented clean vocal.
Definitely.
I mean like,
and fuck, it's catchy.
super catchy.
Oh
it's
my
great.
God, so good.
And that's what makes a lot of that stuff work.
Yeah.
It's like you've got the hard riffs, you've got the beatdowns, you've got the pit moments, but then you've got these moments of melody and catchiness that, you know, aren't poppy, but they
Not
are,
at all, no.
but they are catchy, they are
But
hummable.
they're still able to get you, yeah.
Yes.
It's honestly like a smorgasbord of alternative
smorgasbord.
influence. Don't you think? A little smorgasbord. A
Yeah.
little charcuterie.
Fuck it, that works. Next up, I have a new single from another Australian band. First time on the pod, I believe. They are a Balloo/Perth outfit called
Oh, wow.
Gloam.
Is that the Indigenous name for Perth?
I believe so.
I don't
yeah.
think I've heard that yet for some reason.
Yeah,
That's really
Balloo.
cool. Man, their names are better. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Fight me.
The band is called Gloam. They are an alt rock meets shoegaze outfit. Their latest track is called Diving Heavy, and it was written as a journal entry of sorts to explore the adverse effects of social withdrawal and our disconnection from senses of self.
Yeah, that's very true and relatable.
Yeah, I've got a quote from the band. The band say, "Often it's only when we are on the other side of the trough that we are able to look back and take stock, move on, and work on ourselves. Diving Heavy investigates what it's like to look back on these periods of emotional dissonance, only to find a fog and shadow of feeling, requiring you to sift through and try to make sense of where you've ended up and how best to move forward."
Oh my God, what a really nuanced perspective of like
Damn, boys.
how do you analyze like your own dissonance?
Yeah.
Like that's crazy because the whole point is that it's like kind of unanalyzable.
Didn't know that shoegaze needed a thesis to go along
Such
with it.
an
but
intelligent,
very, very articulate.
very well written and totally relatable, but in a way that I don't think I could have even verbalized previously.
Yeah, it's pretty well thought out.
Yeah, fuck.
The track itself was mixed and mastered by the band's longtime collaborator Cameron Murphy at Opaque Studios, and the single follows on from a previous track that dropped in May called Hinder. And I've listened to that one as well, and it's dope. So I'm not sure if they're working towards a release of some kind, like an EP or an album or something, but for the moment, we've got these 2 new singles this year, and they're both great.
Yeah, cool. That's sick.
So let's
I'd
have
like
a
to
listen.
hear this.
This is Gloam, Diving Heavy.
Do it.
Slow
What'd you think?
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
Kind of gave like like 90s grungy sort of fucking prog sound like through that guitar. Yeah, that was sick. I really loved
very much
that.
a 90s sound in the way that all shoegaze is kind of a
Yeah.
90s sound.
Yeah, but this more so. It's like 90s meets shoegaze. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we got some Powderfinger sounding vocals
Whoa.
over like, yeah, right? Over like really like a very, I don't want to say like standard shoegaze sound because it's still interesting and different. But I do just think that like leaving that song to let the vocal lead was the right choice, you know? Like it is a very peeled back.
Well, that's where
audio.
like the contrast with these bands and like the overlapping genres, you know, that's where a couple of the choices can really kind of like define the sound. And what I mean is like if you're doing just like straight shoegaze worship, a lot of the times the vocal is going to be quite buried.
Yeah.
And the idea is that like you don't want the vocal to lead. If anything, you want that wall of sound approach where the guitars, the vocals, the drums, everything is mixed into this like swirling wash of sound where everything is kind of given primacy. Whereas for, say, like a traditional alt rock or grunge track, you might have that vocal line being more prominent.
Yeah.
So, like, for something like this, like the guitar texture and the instrumental texture has that wash, that shoegaze dreaminess.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
But the vocal line is still prominent.
You found all the words that I needed and could not find. I appreciate that.
That's why we do the show. So yeah, like I can clearly see that they're indebted to, you know, a band like Nothing, you know, that are a contemporary for that new shoegaze kind of movement.
But what sets them apart is that vocal track.
But yeah, that vocal line to me is still, you know, driving the song in a way that like, you know, a straightforward shoegaze song might not.
Doesn't
But
usually have.
in the context of what they're doing and how they've written the song, it works perfectly.
It kind of teeters on the edge of like a synthwave type mix. Doesn't sound synthwave, but mix wise, you would usually have your sort of kind of similar kind of vibe in that airy melodic track in the background, but it just has like synth in it also. And the vocal is generally quite piercing and it takes over the song a lot. It drives. You want a vocal that's actually really like forceful, but usually pairs well with a really like pretty airy sort of backup vocal as well. So, I mean, I can't be the first person to identify that synthwave and shoegaze toe the line in a lot of ways. It's the mix that really sets them apart. And also that one instrument, the synth, is used quite heavily in that other one.
Yeah. And the synth in particular has like a very like 80s kind of like
it completely
tone
changes
to
the
it,
sound of any song it's in when used like that. So, yeah, I think they've gone with that vocal style in the mix. And that's naturally just how he sounds as well. And then pretty much kept everything as like what a normal influenced shoegaze song. And it's just such an interesting pairing of two different styles, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really sick. And I'm excited to see what they're working on in terms of a more full release.
Yeah.
Because they're an exciting young band.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Love that shit. That's why we do the show.
Innovative. What's other corporate speech?
Synergy.
Oh, I hate those meetings.
I might just get like a stock photo of like
someone with like a line graph.
Two people shaking hands in like
teamwork
in like beige and light blue corporate wear. Like,
be your own flame.
Might find a chick holding a clipboard and some paper or something.
Remember that time you convinced our friend who was a primary school teacher to use Hatebreed lyrics for like inspirational quotes that she put up around the classroom?
And Annie absolutely crushed the assignment.
She's the best.
I still have those somewhere. I will find them and I will put them up on the screen. So
absolutely incredible. Shout out, Annie.
Next up, I'm going to keep things Australian focused yet again. I've got a new track from Sunshine Coast Psych Rockers Emu. Do you remember?
Great name.
Do you remember these guys? We featured them on the show.
Yeah.
I want to say in like 2022, like very early on.
Yeah, no, I remember Emu.
Yeah.
Hard to forget. We talked about the Emu War. It was a whole thing.
Oh, actually, no. I already did the research here. We featured them February last year. So thanks, Past Owen, for
Cut
doing the
that bit
research.
out and just go straight hard into the February. But make the cut really obvious. We don't want to lie.
So these guys are back with a great new track, and it'll be featured on the Power Trio's forthcoming self-titled debut album. Don't have a release date for that one, but we know that
Trio.
they are working on it. The track was recorded, mixed, and produced by Andy Mitchell back in 2023. And I have a quote here from their Bandcamp profile, which states, "New Age is a hurricane of a track that encapsulates the raw riff and groove energy that runs through the album. Driven by the disdain of living in a world led by the ideas of the very fortunate few that are out of touch with the reality of the many."
Chur. Can I get a chur?
Word.
Oh my God.
So let's just jump straight into it because this one's a bit of a long one, but well worth a listen. So this is Emu, New Age.
Let's do this.
When I'm worth the same, when our mind is free, or open to a new reality. It's a riddle to figure out.
You had it coming. That sounded like a fucking Guitar Hero original track,
Yeah.
right? Like slide it next to Freebird. It's perfect.
Yeah, I love what these guys do. I think, look, I'm not the biggest authority when it comes to like prog or like psych rock or whatever, but everything that is good about that genre of music is here on this track. Like the guitar tone is great, drums great, vocals in particular can like make or break this shit for me. And like if you've got a good vocalist and the recording is good, like that makes the track.
That is a vocal style that I think completely lends like an entirely different vibe to this song.
Yeah.
Like it could have sounded like an entirely different track if it wasn't for that specific tonality.
We've
and it's
talked
so
about
cool.
this before, but there's a YouTube channel that I've been following for over a decade now, mainly because I use it for like study music or like when I'm writing pieces or whatever. But shout out to Stoned Meadow of Doom.
Great name. Great
which
name.
is a great channel that just uploads like full albums from Doom, Stoner, Psych bands. And I found so many sick bands and albums through that channel.
What a haven.
And that entire process of like seeing the album art and being like, okay, I'm interested, hitting play, hearing the first track and like hearing the mix, hearing the guitar and being like, okay, I'm vibing. And then the vocals come in. And if the vocals are dog shit, I'm like, I'm out. But if the vocals are good, then I'm in.
That's how so many people feel about the song Welcome Home by Coheed and Cambria.
With the double threat?
It either fucking fucks people up or they're hooked for life. And
Yeah.
there's no in between. Like I've sat in a car with someone and played that song to them for the first time and they're like, holy shit, this is the best thing I've ever heard. And I've played it to someone who's been like, why did that happen? It's you either love it or you hate it, I guess.
Yeah. But I guess I bring that up to say that if I was doing that process, trawling through the uploads on Stone Meadow of Doom and came across Emu
Oh.
and came across this track, I would be in. I'd be like, let's fucking go.
It's too cool.
It's good.
It's crazy. It's really,
It's
really
not reinventing
awesome.
the wheel, but it doesn't have to. It's just good. It's rocking.
I think that it has its own uniqueness though. Like
Okay.
I think that it is still because I think that there's influences from genres that you wouldn't expect in here. And it's
Yeah.
the kind of thing that I'd want to pick their brains about to kind of find that out. But I think you'd be surprised by some of the stuff that inspired this song. That's all. I couldn't tell you what did, but I just feel like there's something interesting to the story behind this kind of sound.
Yeah, well, I mean, like we had that little quote about like the lyrical inspiration. So like clearly they're drawing from current events.
Yeah.
And taking something that is, like instrumentally like resonant and then putting something a little bit more thematic behind it, which is
Yeah.
always good because like you can just have a fun song with good riffs and it doesn't need to be any more intellectual than that.
No, but I'm saying it could be something as simple as like somehow Kylie Minogue's Badum influenced something. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like something crazy is made them be like, you know what? I think we could do this, and that's changed like the sound or the mix or something.
Right.
But it just sounds really. It sounds like something's happened that's just made it kind of unique in a way that still sounds like this genre.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
No, that's good. I'm with you. I'm with you. Next up, we have a new track from Trophy Eyes, a band that
The boys, Nui One Tui.
The Nui One Tui. They've been laying low for a while since returning home from a recent US tour. Main reason for that, I believe, is because there was an unfortunate stage diving accident/incident.
And the fan got hurt.
Where the fan got hurt, and I think that kind of shook the band, and in particular, frontman John Floriani.
And the way they reported on it was really fucked as well. Like the band were immediately helping this person, supporting this person. I think that this fan is definitely like, it was a freak accident. Like no one was to blame for that.
I remember a similar conversation happened when that fan got on stage with The Story So Far, and Parker like essentially drop kicked them off the stage. And there are a lot of people just kind of like talking about that and like highlighting like, you know, the danger of it and culpability and responsibility and all that sort of shit. And like, I don't want to relitigate that incident, but I'm just saying that like, it's clear that obviously it was an accident. The band were like, well, this is horrible and awful, but they, as far as I can tell, have done
everything within their power
to help. They've helped cover some of the medical costs. They're posting regular updates to Facebook to keep everyone updated with how the fan is doing. Yeah. So like,
they've done the right thing.
They've done the right thing.
Other artists have done way worse and then felt like they had no culpability.
100%.
So, microphone stands.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying that that's probably why they've been laying low for a while, all things considered. They have announced a headline tour run for August later this year with Boston Manor from the UK and local band Towns. And then they're going to do a trip across the pond to the UK in September, playing more shows with Boston Manor. So they're doing like a Swapsies tour there.
Oh my God. Great lineup.
But yeah, to kind of keep the promo train running for that, they've put out a new single. It's called And More. And
I like that.
Yeah, this one to me feels like a throwback to the Mend Move On era of the band.
That's so sick.
And their debut record.
There's no era of this band that I don't love. Like they have tried and experimented with different sounds, mixes, like all sorts. And I've loved every version of it.
Yeah. So like Mend Move On turns 10 in November.
Holy shit. Oh my God. Yeah. I am so old.
But I feel like, you know, we can talk about this on the back end of the track, but I feel like if this came out in between the release of Men Move On and Chemical Miracle, this would be like the perfect bridge between those two albums.
That's music. That's literal music to my ears.
That's music.
Wow. That's music.
You heard it here first. That's music. Thanks, Paige.
Hot take.
All right, let's have a listen. This is Trophy Eyes and More.
All right, let's do it.
And if it comforts you, maybe we both be back here someday. Then we can talk it through. See someone you left in an old face. And if it comforts you, maybe we both be back here someday. A life prior to, 'cause I knew you before I heard your name.
Waiting for Paige to have a fat rip of her vape before we cut back in.
Dobber.
That guitar lick, that...
I think that...
Incredible.
They started with a run, then cut into like this like incredibly catchy like bridge to chorus. It was so strong chlorine vibes there with like... some of the darkest lyrics you've ever heard and the catchiest fucking great song. 10 out of 10. And I think that emulates this, but then it's been paired with like this very like Blink-182 Sum 41 rhythmic line, but then the melodic, like the very Trophy Eyes melodic riffs kind of like coming in and out as well. But the kit is like more forward in this than I've heard in definitely since Chemical Miracle. And it's so punchy. It's so interesting. It's like got like this very punk pop instrumental vibe, but then they've gone kind of more back to like their grungy vocal track. It's sick. I love it. It's the best of both worlds.
I keep thinking about when we had Lachlan Watt from Run on the show.
Lucky.
And we were talking about their most recent EP and how John did a guest feature with Run. And Lachlan was kind of talking about how in the songwriting process for that song, he knew that there was a bit that John would be good on. And he was kind of struggling with like how to do the melody for that particular song. And he was like, I know that there's going to be something that works here. I'm going to reach out to John because he's a mate of mine and I'm sure he'll be great for it. And he was kind of just saying how super quickly John came in and like heard the song, heard the idea
and
for the
found
lyrics,
the melody.
and was just very like, no, you need to do this here, you hold this note here, you do this change. And I just think that's reflective of how much the band have grown as songwriters and how just kind of impeccable they are at crafting these like really
sculptors,
like
music sculptors,
like melodic, engaging hooks, both at the level of like that guitar line that we were
instrumentally
humming,
and vocally,
with the vocal lines,
lyrically,
like
all of it.
So good.
Yeah, it's just definitely like a powerhouse of like catchy ass unskippable songs from this band every time. They should rule the world.
Yeah. I'm going to move on to our next one, and I need to move the notes up. Hello. So next up, I have a track from brutal death metal unit PeelingFlesh. This is a new band for the pod.
Nice.
They have a new record coming out titled The G Code, and it's dropping on September 6th through Unique Leader. Not sure what the G in the G Code is, but...
What's the code?
Don't know.
I am intrigued.
Now, I have a funny anecdote. As I said, this is a new band on my radar and a new band for the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened was I was trying to do social stuff for our episode last week.
We're trying to be hip with the kids.
Yeah, I was trying to do some engagement, and I was posting a video to Reels and to TikTok, and I went and I was like fucking around with the TikTok settings, and I just posted like a random video just to like test some features. And because it was just a photo that had no audio on it.
That's right. It was like of the dog's bed or something.
Yeah, it was just...
You were just testing audio levels.
It was just like a placeholder thing. Yeah. And I was just fucking around with features. I wasn't going to post it, but I uploaded something to TikTok and then it just automatically added audio to
their
it.
Audio.
And completely unprompted, it added PeelingFlesh and this fucking crazy song.
And we were both like, this kind of hits.
And just like immediately this like brutal fucking like slam death metal track starts. And I was like, what the fuck? I didn't put that on there. Who is this? And then I went and looked and I was like, I've never heard this.
Why is this slap so fucking hard?
So that's dope. And then I was like, okay, it's an old song. I wonder if they have new shit coming out. And they do. They have a new record. And I was like, well, clearly that's a sign.
It was meant to be.
Got to feature them on the show.
The TikTok gods, the Chinese government really wanted you to find that track.
Yeah, indeed they did. So anyway, that's how we're talking about PeelingFlesh.
Yeah, I love that story. I love finding music in weird ways for sure.
Yeah.
What happened to me was I posted a video of our dog sleeping and it put in a weird audio of like a baby voice dog being like, I need nap. And I was like, what the fuck? So my algorithm is not your algorithm.
Weird. Interesting. So on expectations for this new record, I have a quote from the Oklahoma outfit who state, with this new record, we feel we've really cracked our sound as a band. We wanted to put out something that embodies PeelingFlesh to its fullest, but with a fresh angle, and we've definitely done that. The slams are the heaviest they've ever been, and we've tried a few new things. On top of this, we brought in some insane guest appearances to add to the mix. We can't wait to play these jams live.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah. So they're going on tour in August for the Get Rich Die Hard tour, which features Snuffed on
That
Sight,
sounds familiar.
Corpse Pile, Two Piece, Bashed In, and Slime NW. I don't even know half of those names, but they sound heavy as
Sounds
shit.
rad.
Yeah. So yeah, you can go see them on tour. You can go listen to the new record in September. We're going to listen to one of the recent singles, not the song that TikTok played, but one of the newer tracks.
Oh, okay,
from the
cool. Spicy.
band. This is PeelingFlesh, Shoot to Kill.
Okay, rad.
Load on my big nine, now I'm finna shoot to kill. If you want to slippin', this pippin' finna do the deal. Load on my big nine, now I'm finna shoot to kill. If you want to slippin', this pippin' finna do the deal. Load on my big nine, now I'm finna shoot to kill. If you want to slippin', this pippin' finna do the deal. Load on my big nine, now I'm finna shoot to kill. If you want to slippin', this pippin' finna do the deal.
That was fucking dope.
Who the fuck is this band? So good.
That's so sick. We were talking about it when like the TikTok thing happened.
I said this is literally every like sick skateboarding compilation like song from the early 2000s on YouTube.
But my mind more went to like back on like early YouTube where like kids would make like best breakdown compilations and it would be like 480
breakdowns to blow your brains out.
It'd be like a 480p like Windows Movie Maker like slide presentation with
the
just
aspect ratios fucked.
would just like fuck over compressed like slams and breakdowns and shit.
It looks deep fried.
Yeah, that's what this reminds me of. There's a part in the middle there where there's like the fucking like rap break.
Yeah. Oh,
and then like
so hard.
the pinches.
Yeah.
As like the kind of like timekeeping, and then the chugs come back in.
How dare they?
And then it switches into the gutturals.
It
like
goes so hard.
Inspired.
Why do I feel like I'm transported to being drunk in some field when my parents think I'm at a sleepover? Like this was what we listened to when we were that age.
This
We
is
were
fucking
weird.
This is sick.
This is so sick.
And I know like slam in particular is having like a little bit of a
little
resurgence.
resurgence, yeah.
There's a band from the US called Torture that are kind of getting like crazy hype right now, and people are definitely getting into like real OG slam, which I think like at its like strongest is like borderline unlistenable because it's like it's meant to be like overly technical.
Some of my favorite slam is
hard.
not in English. Like it doesn't matter.
Remember when like Russian slam bands were like a big thing back in the day?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
For sure. Norwegian too.
Yeah. This is dope. And I'm kind of stoked that completely unbidden of any input, TikTok was like, here you go.
Let me change your life for a second.
One other note before we move on to the next track, the album cover for the G Code, which I'll throw up on the screen again,
it's right
has
here.
like the logo is like unreadable and in like the gold foil like print. You remember back in the day when like all the deathcore bands had like the hoodies with like the silver and gold like foil print?
I'm thinking of like the Devil Wears Prada's like that one punk pop. What was it? It's like punk grime song that they did.
Punk Goes Crunk.
Yes, that one. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Where it's like got a chain hanging off it.
Yeah, it very much reminds me of like that confluence where all of the heavy and alternative bands were doing like kind of a pseudo parody of like the crunk style of things.
Sure.
And the gold and the foil prints were definitely popular.
They looked goofy.
Yeah. But anyway, I think this shit rules, and
it's really good.
That rap break was fucking inspired.
It feels
The
very
whole track
like
slams.
It feels like, dare I say, camp. I don't know how, but it feels like a camp version of this genre.
Okay, we'll roll with
it
that.
feels
Camp
self-aware.
slam.
Self-aware. You know what I mean? It's cool.
Sick. Let's move on to the next track for Mosh Pithy this week. Keeping things from Oklahoma. I have another new band on my radar this week, hailing from Tulsa. The band is called CLIFFDIVER. Are you familiar with these guys?
I think I might be actually, yeah.
Okay. They had an album in 2022 called Exercise Your Demons.
Yes, this is ringing bells.
I believe I listened to it at the time. I don't think we featured them on the show or the newsletter. But they've announced a follow-up to that record called Bird Watching, and it'll be out on September 20th via Side One Dummy Records. Now, they are a septet, so 7 people in the band, one of them being a saxophone player, which is fucking sick.
Super sep.
Super sep. Their latest single from the record is called Going for the Garbage Plate. And yeah, and I love this one. It's fun. It's got a great hook. It's got the fucking saxophone,
Oh,
which is
yeah,
sick.
yeah.
And it also features Stoff Colasanto of the band Carpool.
Stoff Colasanto.
Stoff Colasanto, which has a great guest feature on it. So yeah, it's all tick, tick, tick in my book. This is just fun, catchy, good kind of, alternative punk track.
That's sick.
Yeah, let's have a listen. This is CLIFFDIVER, Going for the Garbage Plate.
Cool. Let's do it.
To say, I know things are changing, I know that I'm changing, so why does it feel the same? Oh no, not this again. I'll ghost my therapist and all my friends, become a hermit on the weekend. Feels like my shell is closing in. Oh no, here we go again. I'll ghost my therapist and all my friends.
Oh, no, nothing again. It's catchy as fuck.
Super catchy.
I
It's
love
just
it.
fun, like, I don't know.
Music. It's music.
It's music. Yeah, I don't know, like alternative, indie punk, shades of emo in there. It's the same as like a band like Hot Mulligan.
Punk pop,
Like
even.
you could call them an emo band, but what they're doing is a little bit more broad than that.
I mean, song to song with that band, for sure. And I think this band too. I feel like they're quite diverse.
I feel like the saxophone definitely helps.
So good.
And like it's kind of like something that you would see in, like a band like ska or a genre like ska rather that has
I
like
know what you meant.
all the incorporation of like the different like horns and stuff. But I don't know, like it just adds.
It makes me wish I'd like learned the sax, but I didn't. Everyone already called me like Lisa Simpson, so I didn't want to, do that again.
Yeah. I don't know, like it just adds a cool kind of texture to what they're doing to an
It's
otherwise.
so good.
to
I
an
don't know
otherwise
what it
catchy
is, but it
song.
just hits me in the head the right way.
When it,
Anytime
like-
there's sax in anything,
When it just like fades in that bridge section, gorgeous.
beautiful,
Inspired.
Yeah, really beautiful song, and like it was so fun already, and that just like kind of adds this really cool twist.
Yeah.
And
Also,
then that bridge, I loved it.
yeah. Also, the lyrics are crazy relatable about like
Yeah.
going to shows, feeling old, not being able to find your things.
Certainly relatable to some.
Yeah. Stoked to hear the new record, Bird Watching. I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, final track for Mosh Pithy this week comes from Pittsburgh heavy hitters 156 Silence. I've been following this band for a while. They put out a record called Narrative a couple of years ago, but they're back with a new record. This one is called People Watching.
Oh,
Great title.
love doing
and the
that.
album cover is like some fucking scary, like Picasso painting looking
Yeah,
thing.
right. Okay.
But the album is coming out on September 13th through Sharptone Records.
Okay.
This is their 4th LP, and it was produced by Jonathan DeLees, who's worked with Drugs, Attack Attack, a bunch of other bands.
You're selling it. You're selling it.
This one is sick. It's going to be like a really strong alt metal record.
Yes.
I've got a comment from the band on the album who say, People Watching is the culmination of the last 9 years of 156. From the very beginning of the band, we set the goal to push ourselves and make sure no 2 records we put out ever sound the same. I'm incredibly proud of what we've created. This album has been a long time coming. Welcome to the new era of 156.
That's crazy. That's so much pressure.
But I
It's so
think-
easy to just do the same thing.
Yeah, but I think like, I don't know.
People like challenges.
People like a challenge, and I think like pushing yourself creatively and sonically is like a healthy way to kind of
Experiment and change.
experiment and change.
Yeah.
And like the hard law quote, which is like you want to evolve, you don't want to change. So I think like having that mindset is kind of crucial.
Yeah, or that corporate speech quote that's like,
Synergy.
It's the way we've always done it is the most dangerous words in the English language, or some gammon shit like that.
More stock photos that I'll insert here.
Oh my God.
Let's have a listen to the lead single from the record. This is 156 Silence, Better Written Villain.
Cool.
So fucking sick.
I loved that. That was the best.
So I've got a couple of notes. It's interesting that we put up the guest episode with Beck from Terminal Sleep. And on that episode, I was asking her what she was listening to when they recorded the most recent 2-track, Spineless and Shadows, that they put out earlier last week. And she was like, I can't really remember. It was a while ago when we recorded it. She's like, but I remember listening to lots of 156 Silence.
Yeah.
And I
She
was
did
like,
say
and
that.
I was like, dope. And then the same day that we put out that episode, they drop a new song.
Yeah,
So
crazy.
it was meant to be.
Yeah, that was sick. It was like very nostalgic of this kind of band in like the early 2010s. Like very punk poppy vibe, but then it's got a very live vocal sound,
Yeah.
but like not live for this genre of music.
Yeah.
It's live for this sound.
I was talking to you while it was playing, and like, I guess at first it feels kind of off base to make this comparison, but the more I listen to it, the more I think like my intuition is correct. But like the contrast between like the heavy vocal and just like the rhythmic, like chuggy sort of stuff, very like metalcore, very consistent with 156 Silence and their sound previously. But the clean vocal reminds me of like early 2000s, like new metal adjacent stuff. And I'm thinking,
You mean like it sounds kind of shoegazy?
no, I was thinking that.
Like Deftones?
Stop it.
Because Deftones sounds like shoegaze.
No, the vocal reminds me of like POD
Yeah.
or like El
Yeah.
Nino.
Totally
That
El
kind of
Nino
like,
for sure.
I don't know, just that very like characteristic of that time clean vocal.
I think it's roomy, really
roomy.
airy, full vocal tracks.
And you were saying that it reminds you of like of Mice and Men.
Yes.
Who I think definitely.
but they don't have this mix with the audio. With the vocal track is very it's just completely different. It's very full. It doesn't have that like we've just squished everything into the mid sound.
Compressed, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It's a really beautiful full vocal track.
Yeah. So like I could definitely hear that. And another band that I'm thinking of that like definitely come from that metalcore route, but then embrace this more like 2000s alt metal, new metal kind of style is For the Fallen Dreams.
Yeah.
They kind of pushed into that on some of their more recent records. And I know Chad, the vocalist, has definitely kind of started to do like almost a POD style kind of like vocal
Yeah.
comparison, which I just think is really interesting. And, you know, that shit was all like 20 years ago. So it's all kind of ripe for like a cyclical kind of return.
Yeah,
But,
definitely. As trends go, I suppose.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I guess like to the point that we were making before about, you know, evolving and not changing, it all works. This is all a very like seamless kind of introduction to their sound. And I watched the film clip for the track on YouTube and was like looking at the comments, looking at people talking about it on Reddit, and almost universally everyone is like, this is the sickest shit that they've ever put out.
Yeah.
So like fans of the band are still following with it.
And they've cracked the code.
And they've kind of cracked the code and they're kind of like, here's how we take our shit to the next
Floodgates,
level.
bitch.
But we're not going to like completely abandon how we used to
Your
sound.
roots.
Yeah, we've evolved.
Yeah, you've got to spread your wings, but know your roots.
Yeah. With
Beautiful.
the song itself, I've got another quote from the band, how they talk about like the lyrical inspiration. So the track is called Better Written Villain. And the quote here says that it was a song that underwent heavy rewrites in the studio, but they're super happy with how it all turned out. and it was thematically inspired by George Orwell's Animal Farm,
Oh, shit.
specifically the character of Napoleon.
Dark.
So, yeah, interesting. That's Mosh Pithy for this week.
Wow.
So we're at that part of the show. Should we swing on over and do the feature album for this week?
I guess so.
Let's go. Feature album for this week. There's only one, baby, that we could do.
There was no other.
You know who it is. It's
a gang called Speed.
That's it. Do, 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 do.
Do, do, do.
No, this is the Thank you. This is the highly anticipated debut full length from Sydney hardcore outfit gang called Speed. The album is called Only One Mode. It's out now through Flat Spot
Hard.
Records and Last Ride Records. They're a band that don't really need much of an introduction at the moment because they're fucking everywhere and
Hanging out with the Kardashians.
having like the
Some
biggest
shit.
the
Did I see
biggest
that?
moment of their lives. But they just wrapped up a huge North American run
And it looked so rad.
with Knocked Loose, Show Me the Body, and Loathe. Then they did a string of European shows and fests over there. And they, at the time of recording, recently wrapped up a Sound and Fury showcase in LA. They were playing with God's Hate.
Oh my God.
And I saw footage from that this morning. It looked fucking crazy.
I want to be there.
So, like, they're killing it at the moment. I don't really think we need to talk too much about that. Like, it's Speed.
No, but chuck in clips of those shows 'cause they look insane.
What I will say is, like, having listened to the record for a while now, like, believe the hype.
Yeah.
Like,
It is real for a reason.
it's a hardcore classic. It's 100% Speed. It's real Sydney shit. It's everything the band have been doing from day one. Like, they're killing it.
It's your hardcore artist's favorite hardcore artist.
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
The Chappelrones of hardcore music.
Let's just jump straight into a track and then we can kind of like break some stuff down on the other side. First track I've got for you is called Don't Need. This is the gang called Speed.
Oh, let's do this shit.
Just stick by the ones who stuck around. I give it all away. I give it all. What's will to me is your fantasy. Don't need no stories. Don't need no games. Me and mine. Don't need no words. Don't need pretending. I just contemplate. Me and mine.
So
Just
fucking hard.
Right on the flow. Everything is perfect and seamless. It's rhythmic as fuck. You just like, it's absolutely understands like the fine tuning of this particular genre.
Yeah.
And then just like completely fucking does whatever it wants on top of that with
Yeah.
the fucking flute and the fucking samples and that crazy fucking dive bomb. Like, oh, so good.
I mean, the flute is on the next track. So
Oh, yes.
you're getting ahead of yourself. But I understand. It's insane amounts of energy and creativity.
It's just, it's like a hard bass with these crazy, interesting influences on top.
Yeah.
Just like sonically, such interesting music for me.
It's crazy. Like, the dive bomb especially is just like so fucking crazy. And like the full like whammy bar fucking like hold.
Yeah, for sure.
I love everything about it, but I will say, like, as strong as like the guitar stuff from Dennis and Josh is, or Jem's like impeccable flow over the top of
Insane
everything.
flow.
The real star for me in that is Aaron's bass tone.
Yeah.
And those little like bass breaks that they've got to kind of like break up the flow.
I think how tight
So
the kit
good.
sounds is like
everything is just dialed the fuck in.
everything just feels like you're getting smacked in the face. And I love that. I love getting smacked in the face.
But I mean, like, we've seen them a couple of times now. And what I love about this record is that it really does capture the live energy
Yeah.
of a Speed show.
Which isn't easy to do.
It's not. And like to incorporate that on record and to have that come through so like effortlessly is a real like talent in songwriting.
My hope is that new listeners come in at this track and then go to a show and see that like that's exactly what you get.
Yeah.
What a crazy experience. Like they're such a good live band too.
So speaking of the flute, we can talk
Yes,
about that.
I was
So
thinking of the second
we're
track.
going to play the first test next, which is one of the singles from the record.
It's so good.
Which is now infamous for having the fucking flute beat down, which
sure.
is incredible. But
Reference live video shoot.
I was reading the Kerrang cover story that came out for the release of the record.
For sure.
Was written by Sam Law and features a bunch of quotes from Jem talking about Speed and the record. And there's information in there talking about how the first test was inspired by Jem, Aaron, and Dennis's exploration of their experiences as like first generation Asian Australians, which is something that like Jem talked about when he was on our show, like way back in the day on one of our early guest episodes.
Such a great guy.
But that's always been at the core of Speed, is really kind of like
that identity.
Embracing their identity as Asian Australians and as hardcore kids, and like where those two things overlap and how to like bring that through in the music.
Bring that influence in.
And I think the song is really kind of emblematic of them like pushing past those racial stereotypes, doing their own thing, walking their own path. Just a fucking banger track. And they put flute over the beatdown.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
great.
It's fucking incredible.
It's
so,
literally the best thing I've ever heard.
yeah, I couldn't do the feature album spot on this episode and this record and not do that.
Yeah.
So even though it's a single, and I'm sure most people listening to this may have already heard it, if you haven't, we're going to listen to it now because it's fucking dope.
It's really good.
This is Speed, the first test. They did the damn thing.
When Pauline Hanson goes to hell, she just has to watch a gang called Speed for the rest of eternity.
She should be so lucky.
Fuck her.
I think the thing for me about Speed and this record is like they've made hardcore fun again. And like even though
make hardcore fun again.
even though they're like insanely good at what they do and the shows are incredible and the film clips are
They're
fucking
like a
hard
once
as
in a
shit.
generation talent.
Absolutely, but like all of those things taken in kind of like cumulative, it's just fun.
It's sick. Why does the kit sound like it was recorded on a basketball court? It's so good.
I mean, the film clip or official movie rather was recorded in like a car park. So
knew it. Incredible.
Yeah, I love that track. I think the whole record bangs. We could feature more songs and talk about them, but they're all fucking great. What I wanted to end on, I guess, is like the ethos of Speed, which I think is very much exemplified on this record and is something that Jem talked about when he was on the show with us way back in the day.
It's beautiful.
But to bring up that Kerrang feature again, there's like a fairly big quote here, which I think is like worth kind of running through in full to kind of get why this album is so important and why they're such a special band, because they get it.
Yeah.
And you'll see what I mean about that.
They're deserving of it.
They're deserving of this hype. They're deserving of the praise. Because,
and they curate something very special within their community.
Yes. But so I've got this quote here from the Kerrang feature. Jem says, "As much as hardcore can be for anybody, it's not for everybody."
Yeah.
And he says, "Perhaps the simplest way to explain it is that none of us in Speed found out about hardcore through Instagram Reels or TikToks, viral tweets, or comments on Reddit. We all got into hardcore by going to shows, seeing flyers for more shows, and attending those spaces, week in, week out, for years. You observe the etiquette, the people running the shows, how people participate. We've learned everything we know about hardcore through that physical participation, that spiritual participation. Sitting down with people, looking them in the eye, and having conversations. Discovering music in real time, being played and experienced in front of you. Continuing to do that over the course of 17 or 18 years and still loving it more than ever. It's a genre, and we're a band who'll welcome anyone with open arms.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. And then there's kind of like a secondary quote to that where he's kind of talking about what hardcore means. And he says here, quote, "There's nowhere else that really exists. It doesn't make sense through a screen. It doesn't make sense on paper. But if you're within those four walls, experience it in real time, there's a good chance you're going to get it. It's hardcore. This subculture can only really be understood through physical participation."
I got goosebumps.
Yeah, and I mean, like, this
It's
is
special. It is.
this is the point. Like, you can be on the internet and you can kind of, say that Speed are overhyped, or you can kind of say this or
Have
that.
people been saying that?
I mean, some people do.
I guess I've just been living in a fairy
It's the
tale where
internet.
everyone thinks they're sick, and
Yeah.
that's how we're living.
But I guess I just wanted to end by being like, like, they're the real deal. They're kids who grew up going to shows,
Absolutely.
being active participants in the hardcore scene, that spiritual,
Yeah.
communal participation. And then they took that and they made their own hardcore. They
Yeah.
made their own music. They put their own stamp on it. And
Their goal is to embody the kind of connectivity and joy and like catharsis that comes from the community that is hardcore
yeah, but
music.
it's a tactile thing.
Yeah.
It is a physical thing. And like, once you go to hardcore shows and you participate in hardcore and you get your fucking teeth kicked in the mosh and you fucking get up there and stage dive and you sing along and you grab the mic and you do all those things and you actively participate in it, you get it.
It's huge.
And you're not going to get that from just watching through a screen.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing is like, people talk about like, oh, we need to gatekeep hardcore more. And like,
I only ever say it in jest. I don't mean it.
I, on a certain level, can kind of see that logic because, if all you know about hardcore is what you see on your phone or what you see on the computer, you're not going to get
That's
it.
not hardcore.
But you need to go to the shows. You need to be there. You need to talk to people. You need to make friends in that space, and you need to give back to that community because
respect each other.
because that's where it all comes from.
Yeah.
And Speed get it. They understand
They
that.
definitely grow and cultivate that energy
Absolutely.
with their music, through their music and their performances.
And that's what makes Only One Mode such a great record is
Mm-hmm.
because like lyrically, that's where it's coming from. Musically, it is like hardcore in its purest form.
It's just, it's
And
a very
it's-
altruistic love of the game,
It's
you know?
fun.
Yeah.
And that's what it should be. It should be this joyful, communal thing. It should be catharsis. It should be a release.
I feel like there's been a weird period where hardcore got a little curmudgeon-y. Like a little bit old man, and it
Yeah.
was like, no, the kids don't know hardcore. And there was like just weird vibes. And I just think like we were so starved for it. And Jem said the same thing on the interview he did with you, is like everybody who loves this was like desperate for it after COVID. And I think we all realized that we maybe took it a little for granted before.
Yeah. And like you can talk to anyone who has been in hardcore for a long time. Like there was a period in the late 2010s, kind of like pre-COVID, where, shows weren't happening that much. Venues were getting shut down. Things were kind of in a bit of a lull period.
Bloody capitalism.
And there's definitely a like before Speed and after Speed. And the contrast is fucking night
People
and day.
gonna write books about this.
Because
I
they
swear to God.
they reignited something in a lot of the old heads, and they ignited something
in the younger
kids.
generations.
And there's a whole bunch of young kids making bands, doing shows,
So
going to
good.
shows, making their own shows, making their own bands, and that's what it's about. Like being that kind of ignition for creativity and expression in other people.
Yeah, it is honestly sick, and it couldn't be better people
No.
and better music. It's really fun.
Yeah.
You're right.
Shout out Speed, shout out Only One Mode. It's a fucking banger.
Yeah, it is. Amazing.
That is the end of the show.
That is. I did just want to take a moment to talk about someone else from the music scene, specifically in Brisbane.
Sure.
A friend of mine, the guitarist of the band Slice the Cake, Jack, passed away a couple months ago.
Okay.
I don't want to cry, so if there was anyone who loved the alternative music scene, it was Jack. Slice the Cake is an incredible band, and he made some amazing music with that band.
Yeah.
And I will miss him. He'll literally be laughing at me for crying on a silly little podcast. But I just wanted to dedicate this episode to him. And if any of the new kids coming into the scene are half as amazing as him, and so many people like him that we've lost over the years to, God, you know, unfortunately mental health issues, and then in his case, a really awful, evil disease.
Yeah.
Fuck cancer. I think, just pour one out for the homies we've lost along the way.
Yeah. R.I.P. Jack.
Rest in peace, Jack.
Should we end it there?
Yeah, I love you guys. Sorry for being a bit of a downer at the end.
Thank you for tuning in. This has been the weekly roundup. We might leave it there.
All right. See you.
See ya. Bye.